Our story begins in England a long time ago, but this was just the beginning of adventurous lives for future generations. For his bravery in the conquest of Acre, Richard the Lion-Hearted awarded Hugh de Alsup knighthood as well as lands in the county of Derby. A small village of Alsup and Liddale was developed, and the Alsups built a great manor house. They handed down the title Lord of the village to the eldest son of each new generation for about 500 years. Records state that the family was seated at Alsup and Liddale parish of Ashbourne in the year 1066 at the time of the Norman conquest. They were there for about 20 generations. The Domesday Book and the Pipe Rolls of Derbyshire tell us that this was the first spelling of the name, the last part Hope, meaning hill, and the first part meaning Elias or Ellis. Through the years, the name has taken on various forms of spelling. Verified evidence has revealed the ancestors of the Alsups of Douglas County, Missouri, immigrated from Alsup and Liddale, Derbyshire, England. They were of Irish and Scottish descent. Many of them held powerful and prominent positions. Alsup and Liddale is a small farming hamlet which nestles in a side valley below the main Ashbourne to Buxton Road. The village is very pretty, with a fine Norman church which was built in the early 12th century, then renovated and extended in 1883. Alsup and Liddale, one of England's most famous and beautiful places. Why then would they leave such a beautiful place? We may never know. The adventures waiting for them in America had to be far more than they ever dreamed. In the early 1950s, while visiting the Lake of the Ozarks, little did I know that only about 50 miles away and 50 years later, I would experience the journey of my life, a journey which would allow me to follow the action-packed adventures and legends of these people. Many books and stories have been written regarding the Alsups of Douglas County. The stories are real. Through the years, portions of them have been laced with exaggeration, and now the realistic and more complete version must be told. Though there are many recorded events of interest during their early years in America, we will only briefly cover some of them in order to follow the line more quickly to Douglas County, where the real excitement begins. John Alsup was born in 1734. He married Agnes Costello in 1761. Agnes was the daughter of Patrick Costello. They were married in Ireland. John and Agnes immigrated to America, and they had 6 children that we know of. John was born 1774 in Virginia, and this is the line we are following. John Alsup married Sarah Locke Robertson, better known as Sally, on July 1st, 1802. Sally was the daughter of Moses Robertson and Margaret Locke. She was born in 1787. John served in the War of 1812. He also served in the Battle of New Orleans. During their stay in Virginia, John Alsup and a Captain Crockett were neighbors. On the 8th day of March, 1793, John Alsup was shot in the shoulder, not far from his own home. On the 28th day of the same month, one of Captain Crockett's men was killed and another taken prisoner. On the 10th day of September, 6 horses were carried off by a small party of Indians. John and Sally eventually left Virginia. They settled in Tennessee for at least 17 years. During that time, their children were born. They lived in several counties of Tennessee. While living in Lincoln and Lawrence counties, they were neighbors of the famous Davy Crockett. John and Sally had 7 children, all born in Tennessee. Alcy, James Kennison, Benjamin, or better known as Ben, John Pullum, Moses Locke, or better known as Locke, Elizabeth, better known as Eliza, and William Newton, or better known as Bill. Alcy Alsup married Barney Clift on January 23, 1828, in Hardeman County, Tennessee. Eliza Alsup married Isaac P. Russell in Tennessee. Both girls remained in Tennessee and raised their families. James Kennison married Mary Margaret Slaughter. They were married October 24, 1829, in Hardeman County, Tennessee. Ben married Dorothy Crane on January 20, 1830, in Hardeman County, Tennessee. They had 1 son, John. On December 13, 1833, he married Nancy Thomas in Hardeman County, Tennessee. John Pullum did not marry until after he left Tennessee. He married Phoebe Annie Weaver on October 21, 1836, in Polk County, Missouri. Phoebe died before 1847. He then married Elizabeth Catherine Oldham on December 17, 1848, in Greene County, Missouri. Locke married Martha Grant, better known as Patsy, in Madison County, Tennessee, on January 27, 1835. Patsy was the daughter of Ursula or Ursley and James Grant. Patsy was born in North Carolina on March 8, 1810. Evidence tells us that each were most likely previously married. An old family Bible lists her as Patsy Miller marrying M.L. Alsup. After 44 years of marriage, Patsy died in 1879. Locke remarried in 1882 to Eddie C. Smith. William Newton Alsup, better known as Bill, was the youngest. He did not migrate to Missouri when his brothers did. Instead, he remained in Tennessee with his parents until about 1840, when they also headed for Missouri. Bill married 5 times to Matilda Martindale, Mary, last name unknown, E. A. Hurd, Eliza Jane Trail, and Lydia Ann Collins. Lydia was the widow of Leroy Upshaw. It is well known that in the 1820s to early 1830s, the Alsups visited Missouri in order to locate a place to raise and race their fine horses. Documents in Greene County, Missouri tell us that James Kennison Alsup was most likely one of the first to arrive in Missouri. Franklin Township in Greene County, Missouri has one of its first settlers listed as James K. Alsup, who came from Tennessee in 1831. The Springfield Land Office Sales Book from 1833 to 1892 records that James Kennison bought a total of 320 acres between the years of 1839 and 1852 in Greene County, Missouri. John Pullum Alsup had settled in Christian County, then in Polk County, Missouri, by at least 1836. John became a Presbyterian minister, and records show that he solemnized many marriages and preached many sermons. According to information received from the Polk County Genealogical Society and from the Bolivar Weekly Courier, September 3, 1859, Zumwalt writes, and I quote, "The different religious denominations like to hold camp meetings which would last from 1 to 3 weeks. The Christian people of denomination would go and camp on the ground and treat others with all the Christian love and charity they possessed. I remember attending one of these meetings that was carried on by the Presbyterians. Their principal preacher was the Reverend John Alsup. He was the first preacher I ever heard preach. He preached once a month at the residence of my grandfather, John Zumwalt. He was assisted in his camp meeting by the Reverend James Batten, who was a Methodist, and by the Reverend William F. Spillman, who was a missionary Baptist. In those days, they thought more of worshiping God than they did of worshiping their denomination." Ben Alsup was in Missouri by 1837, if not earlier. He became involved in politics early on. Ben Alsup was one of the first elected officials of Howell County. He was one of 3 county judges. Ben Alsup served as state representative of Howell County in 1868. A sample circuit court case in 1851 involves an indictment for disturbing religious worship. A jury of 12, including Ben Alsup, found Mr. Bailey not guilty. Though Locke and his brothers had visited Missouri in earlier years, he did not settle there until sometime between 1836 and 1838. Locke and his family first settled in Gasconade County, then Ozark County, Greene County, and finally Douglas County, where he remained until his death in 1896. Sometime between 1842 and 1843, he and Patsy were in Tippah County, Mississippi, where one of their sons was born. During the Civil War in 1864, Locke was commissioned captain of Company H, 46th Regiment Volunteers. After the Civil War in April 1866, Locke was commissioned major of the 19th Regiment in the Missouri Militia. On November 30th, 1874, Locke was commissioned judge of Douglas County by Governor Silas Woodson. He was commissioned once again in 1876 by Governor Charles H. Hardin. A deed signed to John Brixey on September 13, 1840, verifies that John and Sally sold their land in Tennessee. This is very likely about the time they migrated to Missouri. The Alsups migrated across America in this order: Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri, California, and back again to Missouri. The Alsups finally settled in Missouri, with Locke and his brother Bill eventually settling in Douglas County. One Easter Sunday in 1875, Locke wrote a brief summary of his life. This summary contained a comment concerning his father, John. He wrote, "My father was a man of strong intellect, but of a rambling disposition, and very much addicted to the intemperate use of ardent spirits, which caused him to die a poor man." John and Sally's lives were short-lived in Missouri. After being there only 4 years, they both died in 1844. John and Sally were buried on a bluff at Twin Bridges, overlooking North Fork White River. I'm told that John was buried in a hollow log. Some have tried to reason why he was buried in such a way. This led me to research the possibilities. I've heard of age-old traditions which describe burial in hollow logs. This could be the logical reasoning. This is the area where the Alsups first crossed over into Missouri.